Starting today is we're starting to look at two variable equations, and basically these two variable equations is gonna end up having not just one letter in them, but they're gonna have two. So maybe instead of just having x, we might have x and y, or instead of just having m, we might have m and n. So there's going to be two variable equations that we're going to be dealing with in this chapter. And so an important thing that we should know about when starting these two variable equations are this thing called ordered pairs. Okay, and an ordered pair is a parenthesis, and in the parenthesis, right in the middle, there's a comma, and on each side of the comma, there's two numbers. So these numbers could be anything. It could be 0, it could be a fraction, it could be a decimal, it could be negative, it could be positive, but they're two numbers, and the one, excuse me, the one to the left of the comma is an x, and the one to the right of the comma is a y. So maybe for the sake of doing this, let's say I picked 0 and 1. So if I asked you, what's x? What would x be in this problem? X would be 0. How about what's y? Y would be 1. Okay, so whatever's on the left side of the comma is x, whatever's on the right side is y. So let's change this up. Let's say that I wanted to give you this time, let's say -2 and -1/3. Okay, what's my x? X this time is -2, and then y is -1/3. Okay, so that's how you would label this. That's how you would end up labeling these problems here. Okay, is they might just ask you to figure out which one's x, which one's y, and that's important. You can tell the difference because eventually we're going to graph, and the order matters. So the first one has to be x, the second one has to be y. So don't ever forget that order, that x comes before y. It goes alphabetically. Okay, now that you kind of have an idea of how that goes, let's move on to a different kind of problem, and I want to know whether the ordered pair is a solution, whether it's a solution to the following equations. Okay, so let's say that I gave you 4x plus 3y equals 10. Okay, and let's say that the first ordered pair that I gave you was 4, -2. Okay, so I'm asking you, basically, I'm giving you an equation, I'm giving you an ordered pair, and I want to know if this is a solution, if the ordered pair is a solution to the equation that I gave you. So this is simple. All you're doing is you are going to plug in, remember, just like how we did this above here, remember my 4 is x because it's to the left of the comma. My -2 is y. So all you're going to do is everywhere you see an x, you're going to plug in 4 because these two are going to go together. Everywhere you see a y, you're going to plug in a -2. Those two go together and you hope that it works out, okay? So this 4 that I'm about to write is the 4 that's right here in the original problem. I came to an x, so according to my ordered pair, whenever I see an x, I'm going to substitute it with 4, so that's why I turned it to blue. Plus, there's my 3 that was originally there. Instead of y, I'm going to plug in a -2 equals 10. Now let's solve this out. So 4 times 4 is 16. 3 times -2 is -6 equals 10. 16 minus 6 is 10, which definitely equals 10. I'm going to put a check mark so that I know that it works out. So the answer to this, it's a yes or no question. The answer is yes. And how do you prove it to me? By all your work, just like what we did here. Okay, so let's try one more. Let's do the same equation again. Okay, so the 4x plus 3y equals 10. But this time, let's change the ordered pair to, let's change it to 3/2 and 4/3. So I'm going to make it a fraction, make it tougher. Okay, so here is x. Oops, I have this on. There we go. So here's x, here's y, and all we're doing again, like I said, is we're just plugging in here, and so the answer to this is either going to be yes or no. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to show me your work and then tell me yes or no based on your work. So let's plug in. So here's my 4. That's in the original problem. I see an x, so I'm going to sub that out for a 3 over 2. Okay, plus 3, I see a y, so I'm going to sub that out for a 4 over 3. And then equals 10, and I'm hoping that this will work out. So if this helps you guys out, put these over 1, okay? And then let's multiply the tops together and the bottoms together. So this first one's going to be 12 over 2. Same thing for second fraction, tops and bottoms, 12 over 3 equals 10. Reduce, so we get 12 divided by 2 is 6, 12 divided by 3 is 4, equals 10. We get 10 equals 10. And so that definitely works out. I'm going to put a check mark here. And so the answer for this is yes, it is a solution. So it's just been lucky that they've both worked out. Sometimes they won't sometimes they won't work out and the answer will be no. So don't assume just because the two we did today in the example in the lesson today were both yes that they're always going to be yes. I want to show you guys 2 other ways that they might present the problem, similar to what we just did in 1 and 2, but they just phrased it in a different way. And so here what they're doing is they give you an equation again, and they tell you solve for y when x is 0. So they give you x from the get-go, they want you to find y. So like in this problem, since they tell me x is 0, I'm going to take out x and call it 0, okay? Plus 4y equals 12. This 0 doesn't really do much for me, so I'm going to cancel it out because it's not going to do anything. So I'm left with 4y equals 12. Solve for y, so I'm going to divide 4. Divide 4, so y equals 3. Okay, and that's all you have to do. So when x is 0, y is 3. You just solve. Let's look at another one. Solve for x when y is negative 2. So this time they gave you that y is negative 2. So, and you're going to solve for x, so x stays as x this time. Plus 4 times negative 2 equals 12. And just solve this out. 4 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 8 equals 12. Get rid of this negative 8 so I can get x by itself. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to add. So x equals 20. Okay, so that's another way that they could show you how to do these problems. They're all kind of similar here. So like I told you guys, we can do the algebra part, which we did in the first half of this video. The second half of this is I want to show you the graph part of it. And so these coordinate points are going on a coordinate plane, and you've seen this before on the graph paper, and so I want to go over this with you here. And a coordinate plane is basically just what we'll look at here is just an XY coordinate plane, but as you guys get better in math and higher in math, you might end up doing even a Z on your plane, but let's not jump the gun here. So a coordinate plane basically is a cross-like looking figure, and I'm drawing little arrows on the ends here because there's not really a definite stopping point to these axes. They can keep going and going on longer and longer. So the arrow just shows that it could keep going on, and I couldn't draw the arrow when it was in the grid mode for whatever reason. But for the coordinate planes, you have 2 axes. There's the one that's going up and down, okay, as you can see in the cross, and there's the one that's going from left to right, the sideways one. The one that you always start with is you start with the one that's going left to right, and that's our x-axis. So I'm going to put a little x there so you don't forget that. And the one that goes up and down, we call that our y-axis. And so I'm going to put this grid back on here. And basically what happens here is they'll give you a point. Okay, so let's say 0, 0. Okay, so 0, 0, you count it this way. So on the x-axis, you guys, you can either have positive or negative numbers. The 0, 0 is right here where I'm drawing my dot. It's 0, 0 is right in the middle of the plane. And I don't know why there's no color coming on right now. There we go. Is right here. If you guys can see that, it's right there. 0, 0 is right here in the middle where the brown is. And basically at every axis, so the x-axis and the y-axis, has positive and negative numbers. And so on the x-axis, the positive numbers are on the right side. So all the positive numbers, I'm going to change the color here. All the positive numbers are in this general vicinity right here. Okay, and so if this is 0, if that's our 0 right there, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, those are the increments that it goes on. So these are the x positives. Okay, so I'm going to put a plus there. And on this side, this is also the x-axis, but this is the negative numbers. So if this is 0, this is going to be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, just like what you guys see, remember on your number line before? Okay. So positive numbers to the right, negative numbers to the left. On our y-axis, this is also 0, this middle point, but going up is going to be positive numbers. So this is my +1, +2, +3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and here's my y-axis also, but the negative. So -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So always remember, this is a good thing to remember, is that positive numbers on the x-axis are to the right, positive numbers on the y is on top, on the very top here. Then we go negative x's are on the left, negative y's are on the bottom, which kind of makes sense, I guess, right? So what I might be doing is I might be asking you to graph some points. So let's say I went 1, -1. So you guys know already that this number that's to the left is x, this one is y, and you read it in order, okay? So the way we say this is 1, -1, so my x is telling me, I start with x first, so it's telling me to go to 1, +1 is right here, right where my cursor is, and then to go down 1, go to -1, so go down 1, which would be right here, so I put a dot right there. See my pink dot right there? And then I label it so I know that that's what it is. That's 1, -1. Okay? Let's say that I had to jump to maybe this time to -3. So here's my x, here's my y. So you always start from 0, 0. So that's your middle starting point. So 0, 0, they want you to go to 2 on the x-axis, which is right here where my cursor is, and then go to -3 from there. So you would be scooting down 1, 2, 3, which would be right there. So label it for me. Let's say I wanted you to go to -2, +3 this time. Start at 0, 0, scoot over to -2 on the, here's my x, here's my y, so scoot over to -2 on the x-axis. There's 1, there's -2 right here, up 3, up to 3, up 3 would be here on the y-axis, and then you label -2 and then 3. Okay, so just remember, I think if you always started 0, 0, and then just follow it in order. First thing is x, second thing is y. You just follow. Okay, let's try one more together. Let's try 4, 4. Okay, so you start at 0, 0, and then going to 4 on the, here's my x, here's my y, so it's telling me start from 0, 0, go to 4 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from there now go to y, and then label it 4, 4. Okay, so this is really your guide to going. So I'm going to put a little 1 here so you remember, because that's the first place you go, and then 2. So you don't put the dot, you guys, until after you've gone to X and then gone to Y. So once you arrive at Y, then you put the dot. You don't put a dot on X and then put a dot on Y. So only one dot, and the dot goes once you've arrived at Y. Okay, so for the sake of just showing you what I'm talking about, let's try one more. -1, -2. Start at 0, 0. Here's -1. I'm not drawing a dot here, I just stopped there because that's where it told me to stop according to the directions, or according to the ordered pair. So here's -1, no dot I'm drawing, and then now it tells me from there go to -2, so I'm here and here. Now I put the dot. So you don't put the dot, you guys, until you've gone to the Y part of it. So go to X first, just hold your pen there, and then scoot up or down to Y. And that is a coordinate. That's the two variable equations day 1, and how to deal with a ordered pair and a coordinate plane. So don't forget to take the quiz.